minute so that we can get the microphone level.
Tell us about your bulbs.
My bulbs.
What have you got, bulbs out in the front yard?
Yeah, they're tulip bulbs.
Lots of colors?
Lots of colors, mostly red.
Mostly green?
Mostly red, green.
Too, whatever color.
Are the purple ones the little, what do they call those little ones with little round things on them?
Bells.
I've seen two. There's purple ones with a little bell on them, and there's purple ones with just like a stem with almost like a grape cluster on it.
I've got it.
Grape
Let
hyacinth.
me put a...
I think we lost her.
Yeah.
Well, that's good enough for me to...
To anybody, I don't even...
You're out of voice, huh?
I'm out of voice.
You're good to go.
Oh, really? So you're rolling?
Should I spit this out now?
No, you don't have to. Well, whatever.
Depends on how good you are at talking with a marble in your mouth. Okay, anybody know the date today? April 10th, 2013, and we're talking with Marie Webb. We're making her very nervous.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born. Tell us about your family.
Well, I was born down in near Delta, a little place called McCarnick, Utah, and it's long gone. I outlasted it. My dad and mom, and there was, possibly 12 other families that tried to make a go of it, and they couldn't get water, and so it just dried up and everybody had to move.
You're trying to farm in that area?
Yeah.
And tell me about your family, brothers and sisters.
My brothers and sisters, I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. There were 6 in our family, and I'm the baby, and my sister, my oldest sister that is the oldest, is 97. And
So you got that to live up to?
I have.
Yeah.
I keep struggling every day. But
So you moved from there at some point in your life?
Yeah, when I was about 2, my family moved up to Springville.
Oh.
And lived up there in Sage Creek for quite a while. And then when I was 5 years old, my mother died, and the fellow that we were renting from kicked us out, so to speak. It's been a little... You've got to remember that this was back just coming out of the Depression type stuff, so things were kind of hard, but they were for everybody, so we didn't even realize we were bad. Picked on.
You were suffering on with everybody else. Huh?
Yeah.
And how about Harold? Where was he born in?
He was born down in Cedar City. I don't know how long they lived there, and then his folks moved up into Provo. And he has had 1 brother and 2 sisters, and they're all gone now.
Was he the last?
He was the oldest.
Oh, was he? Okay. Where did you meet?
In school. We're high school sweethearts. And we often told each other we were just meant to be.
So you were how old at the time? When you met?
I was in the 8th grade, and he was in the 10th.
Was that here in Springville?
Uh-huh. And actually, I went to a school dance and saw his brother. And I was quite taken. And then my girlfriend lived up the block from where they lived. And I just happened to walk up to see her, and we just happened to walk past the place, and I was talking to his brother Newell, and we were talking to him. And then I saw Harold, and he was, well, let me show you what he was. Is that good looking or
It's
what?
a good looking man. So you liked him better than his brother, huh?
I really did, all the rest of his life.
Well, so how'd you finagle it from there?
Well, I just went to school, and you know how school is. You pass in the hall and stuff like that. We just become sweethearts. It was kind of funny because where I had lost my mother, and then my dad was working hard to keep the family together. And Harold's family just didn't have that much love in their home. So we just felt like two ships in the night. Felt like we were really meant to be.
So at what point, was there a point in time where you knew it was love?
We had a first date to a party. We both knew the girl, and it was just a party, and from then on it just grew.
Never looking back.
Never looking back.
So when was the earliest point you figured this was your husband?
Oh, probably when I was in the, I don't know, it just, neither one of us had to make a statement of it. We just feel like we recognized that we were to be together. And so it was about in the latter part of the 9th grade that he took his watch down to the jeweler's. It was quite a nice watch, and traded it in for a ring, and gave me the ring. So that was pretty young to be engaged, but you know, I don't know, I believe people were older at that age, and especially us, we just had the love that each other needed.
So now there were obviously some things that happened between that point and the point you got married.
Yes, the war happened, and the draft, all of the seniors had to sign up for the draft, and Harold didn't want to go in the Army. He just didn't have much respect for the Army, I guess, or much love for it. So he decided he would enlist, I can't think of the word, enlist in the Air Force, because he wanted to be a pilot. Well, it didn't work too well that way, but he did get in the Air Force, and then he went to do his basic training, and then he was stationed at Amarillo, Texas. Could we break this off and let me get a drink of water?
You bet. Then you can break it. If I seem a little dead over here, it's because I'm trying not to take over.
I think you're doing fine.
Thank you. So are you, by the way. I stole your questions because I didn't have the right paper in front of me here. So.
Okay, and so he joined the Army or the Air Force, and went to Amarillo, Texas, and he was going to be there for a while. And I went down there, and we were married in Amarillo, Texas. And I stayed there with him and worked in the officers' mess, and we were married I noticed that you mentioned here, what about a wedding day, you know? Well, he came, got off base Sunday in the morning, and we went to a LDS bishop and were married, and he had to report back to the base at 11 o'clock at night. That was our wedding. No, that was it. So it was times to think back at, and it was, you know, good and bad times.
Yeah. So if you had it to do over again,
probably do it a little different, but then
I think you'd still chase him down, Earl.
I think so. But you know, the reason I really fell in love with him is because he could ride horses. His dad worked up there in the Hopper Creek Canyon, and he had this big black horse, and he would ride it up, and he could play the guitar, and I mean, who wouldn't be carried away like that? So I've often told him that's why I married him, is because he could play the guitar. The music has been such a big part of our life. We couldn't afford a lot of things, and we spent a lot of hours just singing, playing the guitar and singing. And I was surprised one day when Ron said that he had the bedroom right through the wall here. He says that's one thing he remembers so much about being home, is hearing Harold and I sitting in here late, you know, spending the evening singing. So
You thought he was checked out and not paying attention.
yeah.
There he was, through the wall.
Yeah.
So
how much better is that to have as a memory than having parents arguing and shouting at each other?
Yeah, not bad.
Oh my.
So did you spend some time separated during the war?
Yes, when he had to go. Well, he went back to Scottsville, Illinois, and I told you he couldn't beat the pilot, so they put him in radio school, and I don't remember how long he was there, but by then we were expecting Ron, and he would wash back, you know, deliberately so that he would be here and not be sent overseas. Well, when Ron got here, and I was allowed from the government $37 a month to live on. And we found a place that was just a bedroom, and then shared the bath, which you had to go downstairs to find, and there was cockroaches about like that downstairs, and oh dear. But anyway, when we got Ron here, then he got shipped back to Kearns, where he had to go overseas. And he was gone over a year. And that was a hard... In fact, as I was thinking about this, I think a good part of our married life, I've been waiting for him to come home. Because waiting while he was overseas and the war, and you know, it was such a scary time because, I mean, we were attacked, and here we were in the middle of a war and didn't think we'd ever see each other again, and it's but to wait for him to come home. And then when he says he would be home, that's where my big thing about pictures. Let me show you here just a minute. This is me when we were married, and then on the other side is him. And that picture saw me through.
Yeah.
It seems like I've had to depend so much on pictures to take his place. But anyway. Then when we got back, when he finally got home, it was about 1.5 years, maybe close to 2 years, 3/4 of a 1 year and 3/4 for him to. He said that they would ship him here, and he was coming home when the war was over, and we all celebrated, and everything. And then they kept him there for about 3 months beyond when he said he was going to come home, because the shipping, getting the soldiers and everything home, it was a mess. And
Was he in Europe?
he was in the China, India, Burma theater. And as he would take the teletype messages from one station to another, he was kind of a relayer, would relay messages and things like that. And while he was over there, that was a time when everybody was working. The war didn't turn to our advantage for a while. And everybody had to do their part. And I left Ron with my sister and went up to Hillfield and got a job up there. I was disassembling carburetors and cleaning them, airplane carburetors. And so Rosie the Riveter type, what have you. And then when he got home, he got a job out at the Tooele Ordnance Depot. We lived up there for 3 or 4 years. And he would run the theater, the projector, movie projector at night. So to keep us going, we didn't jump from poor into rich. We jumped from poor into not quite so poor. So.
What were other times during your married life that you were waiting for him and relying on pictures?
Well, when he always loved diesels. And so then he got a job as a truck driver, a long-distance truck driver. And so we had two more, well, one more, a little girl by then to go with Ron. And so I'd have to stay with the babies and take care of, and that's where I wanted to be anyway, so. But just have to wait for him to come home and be here weekends, and then he got a job on construction, and sometimes he would go and still come home on weekends, go down to southern Utah or something like that. But that idea that we were meant to be together stayed with us. I mean, I would go to the window even when he was working around here. When it was about time for him to come home, I would go stand in the kitchen to watch for him to come home, and my heart would skip a beat even then. Even till after 60 years, I could still feel that same way. But, and then he worked part-times in mines up at Lark. And then finally he got the diesel out of his blood, and he didn't want to be away from home anymore, so he went to school to be a machinist. And then that's what he was the rest of his life. However, back when he was up at Todd, he still had this urge to fly, to be a pilot. And if I could get a hold of him right now, I would shake him good, because he took his GI Bill for education and got a pilot's license instead of doing something, and later he realized that was a stupid mistake. But we have stupid mistakes in our life.
What are the traits about Harold that made you the most proud, or that you just really admire him for?
Well, it depended on the time, I believe.
Yeah.
But he was just Harold. He could play the guitar. He could sing. He would come home every once in a while, and I liked his strength. But one thing, and I've told him this many times, when he was working up at Lark, the bishop got a hold of us, and the woman goes through this process of coaxing her husband to get active, if you love me, you do this, blah, 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 and one day I was praying about it. We had, 3 children by then. And I was praying about it, and it just came to me so clear, have patience. And I didn't nag him anymore after that. And the bishop there was such a good bishop, got a hold of him, and the time was right, and he got active, and we were married in the Manti Temple. And I told him that there isn't a greater gift that he could have given me other than the children, to work for that. And that makes everything before, that was worth it all. And we've been active ever since. And I just am so proud of him to think that he finally saw the light. And if I was to say, what does eternal marriage and that mean to me, it just totally means everything. I've been on the other side of it, and I don't want that. That's where happiness is. When the children were here, and what we would do for recreation, that's one thing I brought this for. This explains our life. We spent so much time in the canyon, And we'd go on trips, and if we had to be gone on Sunday, we had a tent. We'd pitch the tent, and we'd have Sunday school inside the tent, and it was just a sweet time. And I took a picture of this, and that's one of Harold's favorites, so I painted it for him off the little 35 millimeter for Father's Day one year. But that explains our togetherness involves so much of the canyon. Harold and I would go deer hunting every year together. And first we had to hire babysitters, and then our children got old enough to where, we'd usually stay we never would camp over. But, we enjoyed that, to go hunting together, just to be together. And I guess ask me a question.
Okay. What did he do that made you feel loved and appreciated?
He would sit there in his chair, and I would sit here. We'd watch television or something, and I would usually lay down on the couch there, and he would be over there, and that chair turns. So he would turn. Of course, you take your shoes off when you're kicking back, and he'd stretch his toes so that he could reach my toe, and we'd touch toes. We held hands a lot, but it's funny how you can put your toe out there and have that feeling, that connection come clear through your leg, clear up to your heart. Just a touch. And then once in a while I'd see him just looking at me, and I'd say, "What?" And he'd say, "You're my eternal wife." And quite often he would do that.
So which pictures is getting you through now? For this weight?
For this weight, this one, and I didn't want to have glass behind it because I didn't want that veil to separate it. And I loved it, and I pat it, and I talked to it, and ask it questions when I have, problems, and that's getting me through. These are some pictures that we have taken through the years. There's one on the other side there.
So where do you keep that one?
Up there where I can reach it.
Right there, close.
It's right there to where I say goodnight to it, and after I've had prayers, I'll go tell it goodnight, and when I come home from being someplace, I'll say I'm home. Just silly things.
So how do you envision your reunion?
After a few years, I began thinking, well, now, maybe what if he doesn't want me? What if, here he got back to looking like this, and then look where I look, and one night I was having a dream. I just thought, how could he probably didn't love me, How could he, And up there with all of those little cute angels flitting around on the clouds and eating their Philadelphia cream cheese. And one night I was having a dream, and I mean, you dream, when you dream, it's a picture you're looking at, and more or less, isn't it? And all of a sudden, this little bright gold spot, just real bright, come down in the lower right-hand corner of my dream. I don't remember what the dream was about, but all of a sudden that was there. And I felt such love coming from that little spot. And I knew it was him. I'm not going to do this. But I've held on to that. And I think that that's probably a sample of the love that's going to be there when we have a reunion. I think, if I can read this, it's something I wrote, and it kind of sums it up. This was 95, I think. Keith, can I turn this light on?
Sure.
I hold these hands with mine as my thumb gently, I don't know that I can, I might have to have you read it, as my thumb gently smooths the wrinkled skin that covers the flesh and bone that sometimes that sometimes have twinges of pain when your hand opens and closes. It is not the firm hand of your youth that plucked the strings to send a melody to my heart. These hands hold... can you read it?
Start at the top.
We can do this a different time.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
That was read at your husband's funeral, wasn't it? By your son-in-law. I wanted to hear that again ever since.
Well, then let me read it.
Well, we can do that, and we can
too.
we can have it read too later. Get that.
These hands hold a more treasured place within me. These hands have never been lifted to me in anger. They have reached out to me to calm my fears. In times of pain, they have held me. Countless times they have been laid upon me to bless me. I trace the blue veins with my finger, and it is though I trace our lives together, the scars and evidences of the long years of work for me and my children. They have had to be strong to control machinery, but they had to be gentle to hold babies. In time to come, when our Savior asks to show what you have brought from this life, you will open your hands and He will see a reflection of my heart. That kind of sums up why we have a love story.
So I think that's a pretty good spot to end. Is there anything else you
think
wanted
so.
to throw in? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Feels like we ought to have a prayer or
I
something.
know.